Hello and welcome
Hello.
to Cosmic Awakening channel. I am your host, Bhagrat Lalayan, and I'm here today with my dear guest, Joe Poswinski, and it means that we will have another interesting topics to talk about. And first of all, how are you, Joe?
I'm fine right now. We're having an incredible heat wave, temperatures near 100 degrees Fahrenheit for about 5 days, and everybody is mostly staying indoors. And
It's the
that's
same here. Yeah, it's the same here. So, sometimes I feel that I'm not in New Jersey, but somewhere in Dubai or in Egypt right now. So. All right, so we have discussed different, I would say, so-called secret societies, and most of them they are not anymore secret. They are quite popular and open. We talked about the Knights Templars, we talked about Freemasons, we talked about the Rosicrucians. Today, I would like to discuss some, I would say, unknown organizations to many people. And I know that you are not only expert in these societies, but you've been also involved or engaged, and you know some people. So today we have an opportunity to listen these interesting stories from the first hands from Joe. So please, I thank you so much for liking and sharing this video, subscribing to my channel, The Cosmic Awakening. And I would love to start with my first question, Joe. So my first question is about the Saunière Society. And just for our audience, I just would like to remind that Saunière, he was a priest in a small village of Rennes-le-Château in France. And actually, he became very wealthy during this time in Rennes-le-Château, although he was just, an average priest there, right? So the source of his wealth remains a big, significant mystery, leading to the different, speculations and conspiracy theories that probably he found something that could probably undermine the foundations of the Christian faith, etc. And if I'm not mistaken, it was also a basis or foundation for some movies like or books like The Da Vinci Code, for example. So, Joe, I know that you know some people in Sonia Society. You probably also attend in some meetings. So this is a great opportunity to know from you the reality. Let's talk about what this society is about, what their objectives. So, and probably it will give us much more insights about and to because we don't want really to focus on all these conspiracy theories. We want to know the truth. This is the objective of this channel. So, Joe, please.
okay. First of all, the way I got to know the Saunière Society was because I was visiting someone I had met online. This is way back ago because I met them on CompuServe, which I don't even think is working anymore. But uh, I was planning to go visit Rosslyn Chapel because of its interesting history through the years. Many people had said if I'm ever up in that part of Scotland, I should be sure to visit it. So I was visiting someone in that area, and as I visited them, we went out to dinner one night, and on the wall was a flyer for a meeting. The date of the meeting, this was in early September, and the date of the meeting was October 21st. Now, I've said that in my life there are many things that draw my attention. The date of October 21st is the anniversary of the death of my father, who died suddenly of a burst aorta. And no warning, 4 seconds later, he's dead. Uh, and so as a result, that has always been something that will grab my attention. So I saw it, and then I started seeing the list of authors who would be making presentations there. And I started to recognize that these were all the people that I had their books on my bookshelf. So that night I texted my wife back and I said, honey, after I get home about 3 weeks later, I have to come back. And I'm fortunate to have a wonderful wife. But I didn't go looking for the society. It was placed in front of me. So, skipping the in between, I went to that meeting about 3, 4 weeks later, and I was greeted with by the president of the association, a fellow named Henry Lincoln. Now, Henry's birth name was Henry Soskins, but he was a writer for BBC. He wrote episodes of Doctor Who. And one summer, he was on vacation in the area in southern France among the Pyrenees called the Languedoc. And he had a lot of free time. So he went into a bookstore, bought a used book, which talked about the incredible treasure. And it spoke about how somebody named Saunière had come to somehow apparently discover a great treasure in this little sleepy town of Rennes-le-Château. And as you mentioned correctly, this was in Dan Brown's book, The Da Vinci Code, and in the movie. As a matter of fact, he even borrowed the name of Saunière to be the name of the fellow who was killed in the beginning, who started the whole thing from the Louvre Museum that eventually wound up in Rennes-le-Château. Uh, so as I went on with these people, I found out that Henry Lincoln was the president, and the vice president of the association was a fellow who was Lithuanian, which that's my heritage. All four of my grandparents emigrated from Lithuania to America in the early 1900s. So as a result, now I have another connection with that. So I was drawn in to the idea. The very first uh, speaker was a tandem of Lynn Picknett and Clive Prince, who had written a book called The Templar Revelation. And the Templar Revelation was the first time it was brought out to me in full detail that perhaps Jesus had been married and had children, or specifically a daughter, and her name was Sarah. Well, I have a daughter named Sarah, and I'm not gift of God or anything, but there were all
Another
of these
coincidence.
connections. Yeah, there
Another
were all of
coincidence.
these, yeah, all these connections that kept coming up. And then I found that one of the things they talked about was the fact that Henry Lincoln, who spoke later, was absolutely incredible. And the reason he was incredible is that he kept saying, you shouldn't believe something because I say it. If you find something that was written many years ago and buried, that doesn't mean it's correct. You still have to question these things. You have to see if they fit into something that's provable. What did he say? Demonstrable, uh, and you could recreate it. So they went talking about the story of Saunière, who was a basic abbey, a priest in a small church in a town. And then all of a sudden, he decided he was going to massively renovate the church. Uh, and the story goes that when he was moving the foundation for the altar and the pillars holding up the altar table, he was he found something. So what did he find? Well, whatever he found, uh, after that point, he seemed to have an endless store of money. And he kept doing these massively expensive renovations. The Catholic Church said, "Where are you getting the money?" And he said he really didn't make a cogent reply. And they said, "Well, he must have been selling masses." And it's the procedure in the Catholic Church is that if you want a certain mass offered for a departed one or for a
You
thank
have
you
to pay.
for
Yeah.
for things done, you can make an offering to the priest. It's usually something small. In current U.S. dollars, the average fee is $5, which is, not really anything. Uh, but so in order to have gained money just from that, they multiplied out, oh, he had enough masses stored for over 600 years after that. So that goes on. And the idea of the Saunière Society is that they encouraged people and therefore authors who had unusual explanations for things to come and present their explanations and that they would be listened to and that all would be considered correct.
So,
And
Joe, just to clarify, actually, the Saunière Society, they are not keepers or watchers of the secrets of Saunière. So it's more kind of a book club, for example. Like today, the Theosophic Society, when usually they just come and they read the books of Helena Blavatsky and just discuss, right? So, but they don't do some specific rituals or, they don't initiate new people. So is it the right understanding that a Sonia society is really the club when these, as you said, unusual authors with the alternative vision on Christianity, probably, or esoteric science, they come, make their lectures, presentations, or probably there is a executive, exclusive group of people like president who actually know the truth about the Sonia's secret.
well, I would say that the executive group believed a similar truth, but they were always willing to listen to other people who had other examples of the truth. Your book, Awakenings, there is only one truth, but there isn't only one path to get there, that all the paths eventually lead to that truth. So what they did was they wanted to show how this could be true. How could these things be possible? And they were constantly questioning things. They got into the Albigensian Crusades, who went and the Christians went and attacked people at the top of Montsegur. I actually climbed Montsegur. That was obviously many years ago. Uh, and even then, I was working my way up at my feeble pace, and part of the group was already coming back down again. Uh, but I got to the top and I could understand because part of the thing is that this money was the treasure of the Templars and that the Templars had escaped from their safe spot at the top of Montsegur and sailed by fleet from, I think it's the port of La Rochelle, um, supposedly going to uh, Scotland and then supposedly on to the New World. And part of this is in the movie The National Treasure with Nicolas Cage. But it's at the very beginning part where the grandson asks to explain the secret of the Templars and why that family kept seeking them. So the short answer to your question, and I never thought of it this way, is yes, it's sort of a book club, but it's a book club who believes that a person is writing historic fiction. In other words, fiction means you're sort of making it up. Historic fiction means you mix in factors and you give an interpretation of history where if you're challenged, you can't prove every single thing. And that's why you write it as fiction, but you know that it's true. So that uh, the job of the Saunière Society has never been to convert people to the belief of Saunière. It was to make people open to that as possibly a path to find the truth.
All right. So, Joe, so probably your understanding is that most probably Saunière found some treasure, the hidden treasure of Templars. So it's not that he found a specific knowledge or some documents, right? So it's more about the physical treasure. So it places him a little bit different from other founders of the societies or organizations. I have already mentioned the name of Blavatsky, but she was a teacher, right? And the society has her, her name, like Gurdjieff or Steiner, Rudolf Steiner, right, with the Anthroposophic Society. So the uniqueness of Sonia Society that now there are so many intelligent people who are members of this society, but the guy actually, Sonier himself, he was just lucky to find treasures, but he was not a founder of the new teaching or new truth or, kind of a or he didn't discover anything that would have, I would say, some impact on the history of the civilization or the Christianity. Is it true? So do you think he found the physical treasure, or you think that together with a physical treasure, with some gold, etc., he found also some probably documents? And for the church, those documents, they were more important and valuable rather than the treasure itself.
Well, as we're having this conversation, for the first time, I think of myself as kind of being like Saunière. He sort of fell over something. He tripped over something. It's the same way Henry Lincoln didn't go looking for this. He had written a book called, as part of Three People, he had written a book called Holy Blood, Holy Grail. And then uh, that was after he had gone on vacation and picked up a, he had gone on vacation and wait, you need to hit that microphone thing. He had gone on vacation and uh, tripped across a used book in a store. So it's just like me. I went for dinner and tripped across a flyer on the wall that brought me to this. I think Saunière had visions of making where he was a better place, but they were aided by something he discovered that he wasn't actually looking for. But once he discovered it, he tried to figure out what it all meant. So that kind of explanation is actually pretty good.
Thank you so much. I think we brought a lot of clarity to our audience about Sonia Society. And because people sometimes they link specific books or movies to the reality, right? So, and we have to understand that, of course, sometimes Hollywood production, and we discussed about this, right? So sometimes Hollywood reflects the truth. Sometimes they discovers something. I remember all these movies like in 18s or 19s about pandemics and about viruses, etc., what actually had happened with us just a few years ago with, COVID. So it's obvious that there are a lot of knowledgeable people also in Hollywood, in the movie industry. And I think it was not by chance that, this interest around the Sonia Society and actually the release of the book like Da Vinci Code, they came almost simultaneously. Thank you so much for this clarity and these insights. So my next question is about.
Oh, well, if since I've talked about the Saunière Society, they are still active. They still have meetings a few
Mhm.
times a year. So I would recommend anyone who might have access to the north of England uh, to consider attending one of their functions. I'm not a commercial for them. Uh, I was for many years a member. Uh, but it's a good way to get involved with a group of people who are open. And I think that's one of the most important things. You have to be open to this understanding to get it through to you. And it's not like you will have mystical chants or rituals that you follow or anything like that.
Wonderful. So this is a great news for everyone who is really very much interested in the secrets of René La Chateau and in Saunière's, I would say, mystery. So that society is open and you can participate to their meetings if you wish. Okay, so the next question is about Rosicrucians, and I think a lot of people heard about the Rosicrucians. They know that it was a secret medieval organization that came, I would say, to the light around, beginning of the 17th century with the first manifesto, etc., about the new life, about uh, importance of not only belief, but also to know that we always claim during our meetings. But it's also known fact that actually the first Rosicrucian order was founded in the United States at the beginning of the 20th century by H. Spencer Lewis, who founded the Amorc, ancient and mystical order of Rosicrucians, which is the largest Rosicrucian organization today. However, probably it's unknown fact that Rosicrucians been around in the United States 300 or 400 years before Spencer Lewis. And actually, Philadelphia was one of the centers of the Rosicrucianism, right, with Sir Calpurnius. So again, Joe, because you are from Philadelphia, you know the history of the region very well, and I have also an honor and a great opportunity to visit with you the caves, which a lot of people believe they were belonged to the first Rosicrucians of the 17th century. So can you please also share some insights on the first American Rosicrucians?
Once again, it's not something I went looking for. It's something I tripped over. How did that happen? I was a university student and I was dating a nurse, and it was after the movie, after the cup of coffee, after the drink, uh, underage, of course. So then we wanted a place to be alone to hug and kiss and grab at each other. And she said, well, I know this quiet place up here. It's called Hermit Lane. How about if we go there? So the first place I met the Rosicrucians, in a sense, was a lover's lane. So it always has a very strong attraction for me. But then as time went along, I found that the place was called Hermit Lane because there was a religious group called the Hermits of the Wissahickon. The Wissahickon is a river in Philadelphia. And this was one of their places that they came to when they came from Europe to America. And what happened is most groups wind up with two leaders, a religious leader and a physical leader. If you want to say it, you get the priest and the prince, and each one has a different thing to accomplish to provide the balance. Okay. Well, when Kelpius, a fellow Johannes Kelpius, a monk, uh, was coming to Philadelphia, he was part of that group. And of course, their idea was uh, to convert the indigenous tribes, the Indians around the Philadelphia area. William Penn was already here. So they were making some kind of plan. So Kelpius was going to be the religious force. The fellow who was going to be the princely force died during the journey. So Kelpius then had to assume both roles. Now, Kelpius brought with him knowledge. He stopped and spent a large time before leaving Europe, before leaving the area around London, uh, with a lady whose last name was Lead. I think it was Joanne Lead or something like that. I'm sorry if I'm short on names, but and she gave him religious knowledge to guide him. And supposedly they also gave him an amulet of some sort that was supposed to be the embodiment of power, only when activated, though. So he also had the secret to how to activate it. And he arrived. The Rosicrucian history talks about cycles of activity and inactivity. And I'm not smart enough to remember exactly what it is. Something in my mind says it's about 120 years they're visible, and then
That's correct.
100, then 120 years they're not so visible, and then 120 years. Oh, that was meant originally to keep them from being targeted. So anyway, this was the beginning of the Rosicrucians in America. And I mean, that story continues on and how they got to San Francisco. But just for that one thing, the idea of Kelpius and the Wissahickon Glen outside of Philadelphia. And it's interesting to note that at the cave where he had his sanctuary, his sanctum, uh, the current Rosicrucian order erected a monument stone recognizing him as the person who brought the Rosicrucian order to Philadelphia.
And this is a beautiful story. Thank you so much, Joe. Probably in the future we'll have also a chance to go a little bit deeper because I think Calpius was a very interesting person. And I think he was initiate in probably in ancient mysteries and I know he died around quite early, right? In around 50s or
I'm
he was
sorry.
he was around 45 or 50 when he died, right?
He was
Calculus.
relatively young. I think he
Yeah,
might
yeah,
even be younger than that.
younger than that.
I
Yeah, yeah,
think
yeah,
he was in his 30s when he died.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But it's a great that the current Rosicrucian order still keeps this memory about Calpius, and I think he was a great person, and he played a huge role in the development of the Rosicrucian teaching and esoteric teaching in the United States. So, Joe, thank you so much. I think it was a great discussion about these unknown secret societies, again, like Saunière Society, and also the probably unknown history of the Rosicrucians in the United States. So, during our next session, we will continue this topic. And again, thank you so much for your time. And if you like this video, so please subscribe and share and also provide your comments. And we'll see you next time. Thank you so much for watching Cosmic Awakening.